So my name is Claire Taylor. I'm the Managing Director of My Property Circles. I'm a circle member myself. I put my money where my mouth is. And the reason that I'm so passionate about My Property Circles is that I understand that most people like me, really interested in investing in property, but probably don't have the capital to get started. And also, if we do manage to save a huge chunk of money, a bit nervous about putting all of our eggs in one basket and putting our entire life savings behind one investment opportunity. So that's why My Property Circles, we have made it our mission to bring people together to invest in property together as a group. And we do that by setting you up in a circle, which is a unit trust structure. It's a safe and secure structure where you can join together with others and pool your money to invest in properties, and in this case, it's to invest in a property development. So we're joined by Benn Lane, who's the founder and CEO of Justice Fox. Ben has over a decade of involvement in domestic and international property development with a fantastic history of results and, real history of success in development, particularly in the Australian market. So thank you for joining us, Ben. Just before we get started, I wanted to know if you could explain a little bit of your background as a property developer and maybe run us through a couple of the successes that you've had.
Yeah, sure, Claire. I think it's important to go back a little ways in terms of what brought you to being a developer in the first place. So I think it's important for the guests that have joined us just to understand that my starting point. So I come out of a trade early on in my career, obviously, and went straight out of a trade in carpentry into project management. And what I did is I've done that in public works sector. So what that did is it taught me a very early age about project management and cost analysis. With that, obviously, it's developed into, I think it's a natural progression that in construction cycles, you'll move through areas where you go into different residential formats, whether it be high-end residential, whether it be project, high volume, low margin project building through cost efficiencies. Then you sort of morph into the land side of it because that's the starting point where there's a lot of value add. But also the sales component of it as well. I spent an enormous amount of time project marketing internationally. To drive sales back into Australia from in different investment circles, but also we had in different investment groups that come back into Australia as well. But what it ultimately done, all these parameters, they're all the moving parts that make the experience and the knowledge base from Justice Fox's position invaluable to be able to pass on potential investors. Now, what I mean by that, we have already understood the pain points within all the transactions, and therefore we can pass that experience on to any investor that joins the circle.
That's great. So you're saying if someone joins into the circle, they'll sort of get that behind the scenes education as well on, this is how we're progressing through the development, this is the stages, this is the obstacles, and this is how we're resolving them, and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, a lot of the, I think with property development, the number one, I suppose, rule is research. So 75% of what we do internally is research. As tedious and mundane as it can be, it is the most important ingredient to be able to deliver a really positive outcome. Now, with that, a lot of that happens behind the scenes. So we would have actually found a location that we believe is fit for investment. We'll go and look at the site. One of our processes is we'll always go and, kick the dirt and make sure what is being promoted to us is true, fair and equal. And what we do is we stay completely independent. And what I mean by that is we have no alignment to any builder or building company. We'll design in accordance with the development control plan in the local government area. So what I mean by that is we're not trying to build the opera house on a residential block of land. And why we're doing that is because we want to gear it up for speed. So therefore, while we're staying within the design guidelines, we actually have the ability to do our development application faster, but we're appealing to a market that actually wants to buy the property. And what I mean by that, we use architects to design our plans. We don't use builders to design our plans. Sometimes we might, depending on the area. However, a lot of our involvement is done independently by architects and town planners that drive our products in and out of council as fast as possible. By doing that, we've just identified all the pain, we've negated all the pain, and then we've moved through the process quite seamlessly, because a DA in some local government areas can be very convoluted and long-winded.
Fantastic. Well, that all makes perfect sense to me. Still having trouble with my PowerPoint deck here. My marketing manager will not be impressed with me. So we've moved through here. This is what we're going to be talking about tonight, a little bit more about Benn, but particularly about what the investment opportunity is with Justice Box. So let me start, before we go into this particular project, I think a lot of the people who are attending the webinar tonight have probably already seen your information memorandum and what exactly it is that you're offering investors in the Justice Box Circle. But for those of you who haven't, basically what Benn is trying to achieve is he's going to be doing a capital raise, which he'll use to then get into a particular property development. And he's offering a fixed return of 12% per annum. If he has your money for longer than 12 months, then that will accumulate that percentage return as well. So if your money is held for 15 months, you'll have a 15% return. One of the major questions that's come up, Ben, as we've sent this IM around to our members and to people who have downloaded it from our website, is I can't actually see the investment opportunity that my money will go to. And so what we've decided to share tonight is some of the recent projects that you've been working on, which you could explain, and maybe also if you could explain to us why it is that you won't select the exact investment opportunity until after the capital raise is wrapped up and until after you know how much money it is that you actually have to invest on behalf of our circle.
Okay, yeah, good question. What we ultimately do is we transact daily. Now, what I mean by that is that we've got a huge client base and we develop property ourselves, and we develop a lot of it. Therefore, why I don't show clients a project is because we have so many projects that come to us on a weekly basis. Now, we would turn away 15 projects a week. So that gives you an indication of how much review and analysis that happens behind the scenes. So at the time of engagement, now what I mean by that is when the development circle has filled their quota, and we might just work on a nominal amount for the conversation of, just say it's 500,000 in the development circle, say it's 300,000, it's just a conversation. Then that gives us the opportunity to be able to select the best possible product at the time of engagement. Now, what I mean by that, we may predict that the development circle is ready to go today, but in effect, we haven't been able to get the full term or the full amount required, and it's taken an extra month. Well, what would happen is it's just like a queue. So therefore, it's as soon as the development circle is full, they would take the best possible property that we have to deliver on that particular day. Now, an example of that, like the one you've got on the screen there, Claire, like that's a 1:9 lot subdivision. Now, this is an area that just sits south of Ballina. Now, I'm not sure if anyone that's reviewing the property market as a whole, the mid-north coast, you know, Byron Bay region, enormously popular for obvious reasons. So
it's absolutely booming, especially post-COVID up on that mid-north coast and north coast, isn't it?
Absolutely. And what is you've got like so much publicity, and it's free publicity. When you've got people like Chris Hemsworth, Elsa Pataki, Matt Damon, Zac Efron, like if you have a look at their Instagram profiles, they might have 130 million people. So you think when they take snapshots of that local government area, it just gets blasted out from a global reach position that's far greater than anything or any budget spend that Ballina Shire Council could produce. So therefore, enormously popular, highly desirable location to reside because of its publicity. It's on the beach, and from Australian position, it is quite nice. However, these locations are spin-offs from that. Now, this particular area has been identified, and this is just one example. This has been identified up to 30 months ago. So we could see change and shift in market. This is like pre-COVID, well in advance. So therefore, we bought up these properties knowing that we felt there was a market trend. And obviously our predictions have been confirmed on the back of COVID, which by default has actually stimulated the economy in a construction and housing sector, which we're all aware of. A parcel of land, it was in the correct zoning, it's identified as R3. And then I tried to maximize the yield on it. So what I've done is I bought a 8,000 square meter parcel and tried to put as many lots as I possibly could in an R3 area, knowing that under the development control plan, the minimum lot size for R3 straight lots was my desired outcome. However, through council's wisdom, we had to modify. So therefore we had to reduce the lot sizes. Still means we can do multi-res on these sites, but we didn't get a full 800 square meter lot. But we didn't detract from the potential for an incoming purchaser to realize the true value of an R3 site. So what we did in this particular development, Claire, we played the position of land developer. So no construction. We purely knew we could max the land based on its zoning and our DD.
Yeah, right. Okay. That's really interesting. Is that a similar strategy to this next one that we've got here, Ben, the Lennox Head site?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's 10 minutes south of Byron Bay, so you can see a lot of our research, and that has been driven into the mid-north coast. And in some of our properties that we've developed, and it's quite a few over the last 24 months, we've seen numbers just in a duplex format. This particular land subdivision does have the same sort of flavour as the one previously. But when you start developing it and you construct on these sites, we've got in a duplex format. We're always trying to do detached duplexes, so it maintains the integrity of the estate. Mm-hmm. People like to have separation between dwellings. It's more desirable product to own. But with feasibilities that we present to our client base, we're seeing figures increase by nearly 200,000 over and above the profit that we already indicated 12 months in advance. So some of our key members are seeing, $400,000 to $450,000 profits.
Goodness
so this
gracious.
land subdivision, it's just one of the many transactions that we have within our pipeline.
Fantastic. So for those people who are watching, and we actually have a couple of attendees who have filled in an application form for the Justice Fox Property Circle, so they'll be interested to hear all of this, Ben, firsthand from you. It's quite different to a traditional property circle where we have set ourselves up to ask people to come together and invest, in a house and land package or in an established property for 5 to 10 years with a group of people and wait for that capital gain. This is an opportunity to have a much shorter term investment, around 12 months. And if you could just explain to the members, so if we can raise the $500,000, they've got it together as a circle, what exactly will you be using that money for over the 12 months that you hold it? And, how will you be raising that return for them?
Okay, so what we do is with a development circle, and again, use the analogy of 500,000, we will look at the best possible position that we can take at that time of engagement. Now, what we normally deploy is investment capital towards the land. Okay, assume that the land value is 800,000. So what we have on an $800,000 purchase, depending on the method that we purchase the property, it may be that we go in and we negotiate extremely aggressively because we have the development capital there to deploy. And what I mean by that, we may have an $800,000 purchase, but we know that we've got the capital ready. We may try and reduce that purchase price by 10 to 15%, which is an enormous save for the development group. So we would buy the land. We have aggressive terms. If what we always do when we negotiate, in essence, is we buy time. So therefore, if we can't get the terms that we want and we have to increase our offer, we extend the time period to negotiate the settlement. And what I mean by that is we will start with a subject to DA clause. So that completely de-risks what we're about to do. If we can't get the 15 to 20% discount when we negotiate, and or we will increase the offer and extend the settlement period. So our most desirable is aggressive discounted purchase price. Our second is subject to DA. If we need to find common ground and mediate, we will increase the time based on the dollar amount that we negotiate. Now that's where the development circles capital goes. We will acquire the land straight away, and then what happens from there is I purely borrow the money for the development, and depending on what we do, in just a like-minded product and a like-minded investment amount, we could borrow in excess of $2 million.
Just leveraging that money that people have invested with you.
Buying right.
Yeah.
We buy right. We structure the deal correctly for the development circle, for our leverage position, and obviously for the fastest and most efficient way to get the development application through, so we can complete construction as quick as possible and condense the timelines to try and always hit a 12-month cycle wherever possible.
Fantastic. Look, this is so exciting for me, Ben. It's something quite different for my property circles. We have, for those of you who have been watching closely what we've been up to, the first development circle that we actually ran was the Bayside property circle, which just closed last Friday, and that was a successful capital raise for us. So if you missed out on the Bayside property circle, please have a really close look at Justice Fox and consider jumping on. It excites me because it's an opportunity to participate in a multi-million-dollar property development and to learn from you from as little as $25,000 investment. So that's the minimum that we're asking people to invest into this circle. Of course, you know, the sky's the limit if you wanted to invest more money, but you know, there's not a lot of chances to get into property development for that sort of figure, to learn from Ben, to see what he's doing, and to have your money returned in about 12 months. I'm going to ask if there's any questions, because I'm sure we've got some questions. I've gone through quite a few of them already. One thing that I did want to answer, because it has been asked again and again, when you buy an investment property, and maybe in that traditional property circles model, there are additional fees and charges, and you might be paying buyer's agents, you might be paying the My Property Circles fee, you might be paying conveyancers or solicitors. In the case of this, your investment in the property circle, that's it. That's a one-off investment. So no one's going to be coming to you and asking for additional fees. Basically, the only thing that you need to be responsible for is accounting for your own taxes, you know, when you get your money back at the end of the investment, and your own accounting fees. So apart from that, your investment is that's it. That's where it sits, and there will be no additional bills coming for additional fees or things like that. So that makes it quite different to traditional property circle. And another question that comes up to me a lot is, can I invest only personally, or can I invest through my company or my self-managed super or a family trust? And again, that's a question that really needs to be answered by your personal financial advisor and your accountant. But for most people, the answer is yes. I personally invest in a property circle through my family trust. It's just what makes the most sense for my family and our financial situation. A number of our other members invest through their self-managed super fund. And if you're considering doing that, please just send me an email, let me know, and you know, we can put you in touch with the right experts if you're not sure as well. But for most people, then that's totally fine. They can invest through their self-managed super in this opportunity. And you know, I don't know about you, but my super fund is not paying 12% per annum at the moment. So something worthwhile to think about. But yeah, any other questions? We've got a lot of participants and some extras who have joined since we've been talking, as well as a few out there in Facebook land. Yeah, so please just pop them into the chat. Ben, I just wanted to clarify, I think we've sort of already gone through this, but what happens if something unexpected happens and you happen to need people's money for longer than the 12 months? Will they have plenty of warning that that's going to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very, very common in property development that something will happen. I'm not going to say something will go wrong, but something will happen. And the uncontrollables in what we do is purely in the development application side of it. So it's the council involvement. And some local government areas are more proactive than others. So therefore, they're quite efficient and driven by automation. But in some areas, others are not as efficient, and they're still are shuffling paper through the office. And you can't control that because it's not in our hands. So as soon as we hand that development application across, what we do is we just drive the process as hard as we can. So in terms of timing, to answer your question directly, we pay interest prorated monthly. So what I mean by that, if we're offering 12% return per annum, if it goes over to say 15 to 18 months, well, it's 1% per month for every month thereafter. So therefore, people that stay in the deal for longer periods are rewarded because it has a longer term. Now, whether it be their fault or our fault, it's irrelevant. That's just something that we offer as a security blanket for our investment group.
I think that's brilliant. I think that's great. And it gives you that peace of mind that, you know, if things are going to take longer than you anticipated, there's definitely recourse there. And, you know, you will be compensated for the extra time that your money is tied up in the property circle. All right. So I think that's almost it for the questions. All of the questions that have been sent in prior, we have answered. And I did say we're going to try and wrap up in 25 minutes. So what's next? If you are interested, as I mentioned, talk to your financial advisor or talk to your accountant, show them the IM, which I'm happy to email to you if you don't have, or you can download it from our website. If you're on the My Property Circles website, click through on Justice Fox and there's some important documents in there, and you're able to download the IM from there directly. We can also provide you with other documents if there's something that particular that you wanted to see in relation to the setup of that circle. Talk to anybody else who might want to join into the circle with you and bring them along from the ride, and then call us to join the Justice Fox Circle. So I will put our details here. On mypropertycircles.com is where you can sign up to download that IM. I'm happy to have a consultation with you at any stage about the Justice Fox Circle, but also about any other circles that we're currently running. And you can email me directly, info@mypropertycircles.com, as well as follow us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So we're easy to contact. We're in lots of spots, lots of places. It's very easy to find our information and get it messaged through to us, and we'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can. And so there you go. That's our 25 minutes. I wanted to thank you so much, Ben, for joining us. I found that really, really interesting. I personally don't know a lot about property development, and I think that, you know, the process that you ran us through is really, really eye-opening, and I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Claire, anytime.